Previously on Accelerate, we reviewed the 2021 GMC Sierra, but today we've got the 2021 big boy Genesis G80. This is really funny. For the first time ever, driving to the studio, I'm not listening to hype music. This car was the first car I've ever jumped into that listened to calming, soothing music because it's so stately and elegant, and it really deserves somebody more than wearing shorts to review it. But it's super hot, and super hot, I grew up in Dubai, so I know all about heat, and I also know all about opulence and elegance because there's lots of moolah there. There's a huge fascination in North America about SUVs and not big yacht-looking saloons, and this just kind of brings that spirit back because it's such a good-looking car. Like, look at the short overhangs. I'll talk about the side in a minute. So let's talk about the front. In the front, they do have Genesis Epic quad lamps. They do have this huge crested grille because when you are looking, or the person in front is looking in the rearview mirror, they see this huge grille. Like, look at this thing. It's massive, and it spreads from end to end on the lower bumper.
It is massive.
So speaking of grille, there is this plate that covers all the radar and all the front detection systems, and it's really nice because it's a piece of plastic, but you don't notice it. You can see, like, obviously I can put my hands right through here, and obviously there's a plate, so I can't. And speaking of grille, I could see if I could pull it. It's very, very strong, because one of my concerns was actually rocks hitting this and coming through and hitting the rad behind it, but I'm looking through and there's no damage. But look at this hood. It's nice and long and huge. So let's find out what's under the hood. So under this 3/4 hood, and I say 3/4 because the whole hood actually doesn't open up. You see the fenders, the front fenders are still on the body. This hood pops up, and underneath you got two choices of engines. They're both all-wheel drive, so you cannot get rear-wheel drive. You can only get all-wheel drive right here in Canada. So you can get a 2.5 liter that makes 300 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque, or you can get a V6, that is a 3.5 liter, that makes 375 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque. But before I forget, make sure you guys subscribe because we need to get to 100K. That probably means nothing to you, but it means a lot to us because that gives us more whips to review. Anyways, let's move on to the side. So on the side here, you will see that these quad lamps wrap around the front fender, and look at the side markers. They sort of meet. But the most important thing I want to show you are these overhangs. Like, look at this short overhang. And what I mean by that is this really long hood, and engine sort of sits right here. You see, the engine doesn't sit here. The engine sits right here, which means with its rear bias and the engine situated that way, I know this car is going to handle it very well because these are 20-inch wheels. You can also get 19-inch wheels, but brakes. Speaking of brakes, these things have 4-piston calipers, and check out the Genesis logo. This part right here is very luxurious. Like this cutoff here for the A-pillar, and the fact that this is glass and not plastic, yeah, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but that is luxury. In all luxury saloons, that is glass. Now, other things that the luxury saloons have is, so as I was saying, this does have a camera that faces forward that can detect if you have speed bumps or any potholes, and it lets the suspension know, and the suspension is sort of reactive to that. So it doesn't obviously give it a jarring feel back. But as we move along the back here, look at the size of this back door. This thing is massive. It's a massive back door, and it's solid. And that's the key, it is solid, because a lot of people are gonna find back doors being really measly and cheap. But the fact that they put extra insulation in the back here makes a difference because, you know, most people who buy this car are gonna be sitting in the back. This is the key for this GV80. Now when I try to get into the back, it doesn't let me in, and that is something I would change with the G80. At this price point, you need to have a door that opens in the back with the key in your hand, as well as the front. When the front opens, it looks majestic. Speaking of majestic, the fact that you obviously have a panoramic sunroof, but you have 4 different panels, and they are all black, and they're all glass, not plastic. A lot of guys will put plastic or steel back here. This is glass all the way through. Speaking of all the way through, let's start with the front here again, because I want to show you how this line carries through. This is called a shoulder line, or some people call it a dynamic line, that It goes all the way to the end of it, and then it flares out, and you get this wide body feeling. And I did check the inner fender liners, and they are, in fact, carpeted. Front and back, they're carpeted. And let's whip to the back. Come on, little buddy. Come on. Come on, little buddy. And by little buddy, I mean nobody. Because this thing has a summon feature that I simply just press forward on my key fob. It'll detect me stepping in front of the car and it will stop. You see, this is what you do when you got money. The G80, calm, collected. For people in the back, they have a fourth window right here that they can see through. This is not plastic, this is glass. And for me, as the driver, I like the fact that in the front, we've got two 45-inch tires, but in the back, we've got two 75, and that screams to me rear biased, because why do we need different wider size in the back? As far as gas goes, it says premium fuel recommended for me. And as we move to the back here, I like the fact that the trunk release is sort of hidden just above this camera. I push it and it opens up. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. As far as the back looks, this to me is where the car shines. I love the way this back looks. It's nice and wide, just like the front. Nice and wide, it wraps around. And the detail in these LEDs are awesome. And no, these are not reverse lights. Those are actually signals. The reverse light is hiding underneath where the valence is. You have some more G-matrix design here, and I like this little piece. And there's rear tail lights, reverse lights, and yes, these are the crested tailpipes. Are they real? Let's look inside. Yes, there's an exhaust. It's not facing downward. Mercedes-Benz. As far as trunk specs, let's see how wide this thing is. It looks very wide. Yes, it is. It is 4 feet wide, or 48 inches for those that don't know what 4 feet is. And as far as entry point goes, it has about 17.5 inches. So yes, if you have something large like suitcases, you can fit a bunch in, but if you have something like a tall plant, well, you can't fit it in. But what you can fit is a battery. This thing has a battery in the trunk, and that is big news because that puts some weight in the back. And yes, when you see a battery in the back, you think quality. Now I know this from my Audi days, and I will tell you that A8s do not have fold down seats. They do have a pass-through from time to time, not always. They do have really small trunks for being such a big car. So this is a fairly good sized car, and it's got a good sized trunk. So people ask me, why does this not have a fold down seat, 60/40? And the answer is because the back seats are sort of embedded really well into the car. Because if you folded them down, they'd actually not even fold. They're so bolstered that they'll fold like this. And that's kind of irritating for those that obviously want to carry things. So they do give you a pass-through for your skis. And I guess if you're driving a car like this, you'd always have a second car. Yes, I'm in the back of a G80. Feels nice and luxurious, and this is why I mentioned the Audi A8, because this is not an Audi A6 inside. In the back seats, I feel definitely A8. I feel full luxury. And the only thing I would complain about is the fact that this doesn't have automatic sunshades. That is a big to me. But positive stuff, it does have USB in the back. It does have this nice center armrest that makes it feel like a 2 passenger in the back or a 4-seater, but it's actually a 5. It does have a seat belt, that's why. I know, and there's Napa leather everywhere. It's on the door panel, it's on the seats. They have this raised contouring waterfall-like effect. They even have these seat belts to match the interior. It does have nice suede on the top, or Alcantara. And it does have awesome little cool LEDs, as well as these hold on for dear life, bars. It does also have some little storage compartments behind the back seats, and I can move the passenger seat by simply just pushing this button. This can move forward and backward. They also have these really nice quality vents back here, and obviously your controls. But something to note is that this has a really, really high sort of center drive shaft that really raises this floor up, which makes it separate quite obvious. So if you have 5 people in your family, this would feel a little bit tight for the center passenger because it's really designed as a 4-seater. Before I get out the back seats, I want to tell you at this price point to have soft closed doors, pretty awesome. As I climatize myself to this cabin, I can tell you a lot of the materials are done very well. All this open pore wood all the way through is done very nice. This dash sort of inserts forward. It makes it feel wide and spacious. I like that all the buttons have this knurled feeling. Even the pedals have this knurled feeling. And we've done other Genesis before, and I really like where the volume and all the tuning buttons are on the bottom. This is very easy to grab. And yeah, some people don't like this old-fashioned steering wheel. Remember, the people that buy this car want to not do anything. They just want to sit in the car and basically just hold the sides here. They don't want a 3-spoke steering wheel. They want a luxury steering wheel. Come here and take a look at this door panel. This door panel is very unique. Unique because my arm doesn't sit this way. It actually sits upward. And it makes sense because the person that's going to buy this car is going to sort of sit in a relaxed position and hold the steering wheel just like this and sort of putter along. But the mix of materials is really unique, and you can see that in the center console and the dash here, and you can see it on the door panel. There's a lot of mixed-use material. Like, just take a look at this Lexicon front grille here for the speakers. It's sort of really wide and big, and usually they hide down low. This one's sort of in the middle of the door panel. But take a look at the center console. Look how the wood is formed. It's just done really nicely. And the way this aluminum bezel that goes all the way down for the venting is just done really, really clean. And workmanship is important at this price point. And speaking of price point, let's talk about the tech, because there's a lot to talk about. We've reviewed this system in our G80 review, so we'll just quickly run through it. You've got your map, your nav. So if you haven't seen Genesis product before, this is what the map looks like. It is nice and wide, and you can slide this over and basically choose your split screen. So that's very, very nice. If I go back to the menu, as you can see, I can have sidebars and all that stuff. There's a lot going on here. But if I hit this home button, I will go back to this main screen. So we can go to media, your radio, your phone, your connected services, which essentially means that you can look at your app and you can see how many miles you have left and so on and so forth, like most other vehicles out there. It's got phone projection. It does not have wireless CarPlay or Android Auto. It does have something called Sounds of Nature, which I'm a big fan of because it calms me down like a rainy day. Something important to note, on the seat menu, you cannot adjust the driver's seat, the massage positions. You have to actually use the driver's seat on the side of the seat to actually activate the massage, and there you go, you can see it, but you can actually not find it in the settings. But my favorite part about this 14.5-inch screen is the satellite radio, because check this out. When I'm in satellite radio, I have all my list of the radio stations, and I can simply just go through channels, and I can see all three how it's layered, and obviously your nav at the end. A lot of other systems just have this portion where I have to actually hit the channel above, or I have to go to a different menu. Here it's all laid out nice and clean, and on top of that I have this button, and this button's awesome because when I press the start button, I essentially just lock what I want to choose. So here we go, I can pick and choose the custom button I have, and it's on the dash right here, and it's on the wheel, which is pretty awesome to have. Take a look at this 360 camera and rear view camera. This is a dark studio. We're in the studio and it's dark outside. And take a look how bright this screen looks. That's really important for all those that care about how things look at night. Now, those are definitely not the wheels, and those are pretty cool wheels, but those are not the wheels. Look at that sidewall, that's awesome. The fact that it's bright in here is pretty nice. So now here's a 3D dash. This 3D dash is like, the best way to explain it, it does have different layers of glass, and they all sort of align based on my eyes. And my eyes are being detected by these little cameras up here. So if I put my finger right here, the dash gets really fuzzy. I actually have to let it look at my eyes, and the way my head moves, it aligns to it. So I'm not sure what you guys can see, but there are 4 different driving modes. The first one is comfort, and that is sort of relaxing with some brown tones to match the interior. The next one is sport, which gives us sort of this racing, exhilarating look here, and it does tighten my seat up. My bolsters tighten up to make me feel like I'm going through a race course in my G80. Moving up next is Eco. Obviously it's always blue, and then Custom, and I can adjust some features in the car. But that sort of changes the display right there. Now I can't change the display any other way. I can't give it all digital look. This is what I've got, and this is what we're rolling with. So let's take this for a drive and see how it feels. Giving the car the respect it deserves by wearing not an Accelerate shirt. Let's launch this bad boy. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, bit of boost, the front's lifting, smooth, seatbelt tightens up, 8-speed tranny shifts pretty good. So this definitely feels a little bit lighter than obviously the GV80, which is their SUV version of this exact car. Everything's probably exactly the same as how I felt in the GV80, except the GV80 sits a little bit higher. Every car should have this feature. When you indicate left or right, that you can see your blind spot camera, that you can see right here. Look how nice that is. You see that? It's so nice. And when I go left, it does the same thing on both sides. Nice digital clean screen. Oh, it's just so nice. This thing is so luxurious. It's got a sport mode, but I would never use a sport mode. I do like the fact the seats tighten up, as I mentioned. But yes, this is nice and smooth and quiet. And I can just simply touch a button and my air conditioning seats go on. I touch it again, heated seats go on. I love this center console. It's just nice and clean and elegant. Nice, wide. Lots of niceness going on over here. When I drive this car, I really don't want to talk. I don't even want to review it because I just want to enjoy it. I like the fact that I have 2 extra little handles here that the G80 didn't have. The steering wheel is different. This one does have this little holder here, so I can put my hand here and my other hand here and just coast. And Genesis has one of the best lane centering features out there. It's pretty simple to activate. Smart Cruise, I just hit the keep you in your lane button, which is on the left side. I hit the steering wheel button on the steering wheel, and I hit my cruise control, and voila. I just sit here and talk to you. Pretty straightforward, super easy, super calm. And yes, I got a rear sunshade to block out any light. I've got a really, really good panoramic sunroof that has a really good tint to it that I can't feel any heat. Actually, it's really, really hot outside, and I can't feel any heat at all. It is great. This car is so calming that I just gotta wake up. I gotta wake up. Wake me up. Let's pull this bad boy in sport. Get to some real fit times. There we go. 375 horsepower. Let's go. Got a really good motor. Quiet though. Still quiet. What I like about this compared to G70 is the G70 gets pulled to the Stinger, right? People compare the G70 to the Stinger because it's pretty much the same car. But this, on the other hand, doesn't compare to anything in its own sort of lineup in North America. So let's talk steering input. Good amount of body roll, but that's to be expected for something that's this calm, even in sport mode. Even though it does detect what's in front of it in terms of potholes and speed bumps. And you can adjust the suspension on your cell phone. That is pretty crazy. So let's see how rear biased this rear biased all-wheel drive system is. Now I've got a feeling they've actually dialed it back and not been as aggressive as the G70 because that thing does pull out and go sideways quite easily. This thing on the other hand, I don't think so. Just because the type of buyer is not going to want to have this back end come out too hard. So let's see if I'm right or wrong. So foot to the ground and make a right here. Yeah, see, it's fairly planted. This all-wheel drive system is definitely more towards grip as opposed to more having the back end loosen out. Even though the back tires are wider, it gives you an impression that it's more rear-wheel drive biased. I think it's still sort of neutral in terms of its distribution split for all-wheel drive. Now, if I do have to complain about something, in the start and stop mode, if you have it on and the car shuts off when you come to a stop, I don't like the fact the air conditioning really dies down. You can really tell that there's just not enough cool air to come through. That should not shut off. It should automatically stay on. If it cannot maintain the temperature in the car, it shouldn't have such a big drop off. And that's one thing I should think they should improve. Other manufacturers actually do a better job of making sure that when I come to a stop sign, if the temperature in the air conditioning doesn't come out as good, it essentially doesn't shut off, it stays on. But this thing does shut off and it gets kind of warm in here until it decides to kick back on again. That's one thing I would complain about. Yeah. There's a complaint for you. Genesis? I was going to say Hyundai, but I didn't. This car is a Genesis. Genesis has done a great job branding. Remember, you don't even have to take your car for service. They will pick it up. They will valet your product for servicing. That is pretty cool. And at this price point, kind of hard to beat.